pattern has been asking for fusible woven interfacing. What on earth is it? Don't worry, I have got you covered. There are 4 different types of the fusible and woven interfacing, and we're going to cover all of that in this video and what it is, and we'll talk about where you can use it and each of the types as well. So I am Kim, this is Caught with Kim. Let's go find out what fusible interfacing is. Let's start by talking about what interfacing is. If we have a look at our fusible or iron-on interfacing, that is exactly the same thing, by the way. It is completely interchangeable as a term. It just means it sticks on to the back of your fabric. So it tends to be a synthetic fabric that's woven, and it has a glue on the back, and that bonds to the back of your fabric. And if you're wondering how to do it, don't worry, I will link up a video at the end to tell you exactly how to do that. So our interfacing, we apply it to the back of our fabric, and that gives us structure, stability, and to some degree some strength, depending on what we want to use it for. So if I took a piece of fabric, it is quite floppy on its own, but if I applied the right weight of interfacing, I could turn my fabric into a structure, a project that stands up on its own. So here we've got a fabric pot that's got a firm interfacing in there, so it stands up nice and easily on its own. If you've made a tote bag, for instance, and it flops over, you might want that, or you might want a bag that stays upright. So it's wherever you want your structure, your stability, and as I said, you can give it a bit of strength with your interfacing. That's where you use it. But there are 4 different weights of interfacing that you might want to consider. So let's switch camera and talk about the different strengths, what they look like. I've got some examples for you and where you might use them. I've got 4 different weights here, and I've made up some little samples, as I said, to compare them against our floppy fabric as it comes off the bolt. Okay. First things first, we've got a lightweight fusible interfacing, and by the way, you can get sew-in interfacing. I'm not covering this in this video because it tends to be for dressmakers, but for a quilter you might want to go on to, well, you obviously want to do quilting, but you might want to go on to bag making as well. So this is particularly pertinent, that's a long word for today, isn't it? It's particularly pertinent that we know about the different weights and what they're used for. So this is a light interfacing. I use Fusible because it's for me, it's the best brand for interfacing, but obviously choose the one that you want to choose for. And Fusible has codes, so it's worth writing down the code on the bottom of a scrap of your leftover interfacing, so you know which is which when you go back to it, because sometimes they're not always easy to tell apart when you don't have the codes on. So this particular one is the light fusible interfacing. And you can see here, it's got some structure. So this is my raw fabric. My raw fabric is quite floppy, and you can see with my light fusible interfacing here, it's still floppy, but it's got a little bit of structure. Can you tell the difference, or can you see the difference between those? There's just a bit more structure to here. So we wouldn't really use it for bags, but we might use it if we're dressmaking, and we might use it for our collars, our cuffs, maybe our waistbands. So that's where that might come into its own. Possibly you might want to put it in bag straps, just depending on the type of bag. You may want to go more for a medium weight. I'll come on to that in just a second. But if you think lightweight structure, you just want a little bit of body, and bear in mind that when we have stuck our or bonded our interfacing on, we're generally putting something else with this. We're either folding it up to create a strap or a band, and you can see already that has got some structure to it. If I compare to this one, I don't know if you can see this in camera, but this is much floppier. You can actually see that this is much floppier than this one with our lightweight interfacing in. So it's the light touch that we need. but that's going to be different for as we move up into the medium. So let's put that aside. So I've written this on the back. So this is light iron-on fusible interfacing. And if you've got some scraps, or you can get some scraps of your interfacing and the different weights, it's worth putting them on the back of some fabric and seeing how they feel to you. So that's that one. Now we move on to the medium weight, which is this one, which in Vlizoline terms is the F220. And that refers to the iron-on or the fusible interfacing. It doesn't look that much different. So if I'm comparing these two, it doesn't look an awful lot of difference between the two of them, which is why you need to write the codes. If you've been trimming it off the bottom, I would just write the code on the bottom. But let's have a look at the difference in that. So if we've got a medium iron-on, you can see already that that is laying out on my hand, whereas if I put the uninterfaced, the raw fabric, you can see already that there's quite a lot of difference between those two. Where this comes into its own is definitely with a lot of bags or bag flaps. That's a really useful weight to be having around, and probably this is the most used that I have. The medium weight is probably the most used weight of interfacing I have. I get through loads of the medium iron-on interfacing. Okay, so that's something to have a think about, is the interfacing. Also the body of messenger bags. I know I just said bags, but the body of messenger bags, where you probably still want them a bit floppy, but you still want structure, that's where that really works for it in your favour. Then we get on to the heavy iron-on fusible interfacing. And you can see already this is just laying in my hand almost like paper compared to our raw fabric on the left. So both of these are just laying on a couple of my fingers underneath. And you can see how this heavy iron-on makes a real difference to the structure of the fabric. And this is what I put in this particular bag. If you look at my little photo in the top of your screen, this particular, it's not a bag, sorry, the pot, my fabric pot, this is what I used in here. So it was a heavyweight iron-on interfacing in here. And by the time I've got all my sides have got interfacing in, and I've got 2 layers of fabric and it's all stitched together, that's quite structured as a project. So that's my heavy iron-on. And then we've got the really extra duty here. And it is really different. So it's just laying on my hand like a piece of thin cardboard almost. Compare that to the one on the left, which is my my raw fabric, and even compare it to the heavy iron-on. You can see there's a difference between those two. And I've literally got one finger behind both of these. Where would you use this? It really depends on the project you're using. So if you are using heavier fabrics, you would definitely want to be looking at this heavy end. I have got, I don't know if I can get this under camera, but I am in mid-make a cork bag at the moment, which has got this amazing Cafe Facets fabric inside. Isn't that fabulous? So in here, to give strength to this cork fabric, I've used a heavy duty iron-on interfacing. It can be a little bit more difficult to find. Certainly when I was looking for my cork bag, it was just a bit more difficult to find, but you could layer up, do a double layer of your heavy iron-on interfacing, and you'd end up in the same place. If you are making bags and you've got these the clasps that you're putting in, with this bit here, the clasp bit itself, behind there, I think there are 3 layers of interfacing that I've reinforced this area. So do you remember I said it not only gives structure, but it gives some strength to your project. So you can cut a little bit out and just keep sticking it on behind where you need it. So your really heavy duty interfacings will really help you for any of those really the projects where you need a lot of strength, if I can get my words out in the right order. So there you go, you've got 4 different ways. Don't go yet, because I've got one last question to answer for you. So you've got your light iron-on, your medium iron-on, you've got your heavy iron-on, and then you've got your extra or your very heavy. So it just depends on your project. So let's finish off by answering just one simple question, which is, well, how do I use the Fusible interfacing? How do I make a decision about whether to use it or whether to use wadding or batting or wherever? You can use both. So you can use a combination of your interfacing and wadding. But if you think about wadding in and of itself isn't structured. So really the answer to your question is, what is the goal of your project? Do you want it to have structure like this fabric pot that I've just put in my little window again? If you want structure of any variety, then you need to use interfacing, because that's its sole job and its sole purpose is to give you structure, stability and strength. So it's all the S's. So if that's what you're after, start with your interfacing, and then you can start using your wadding, your batting, your fusible fleece. I've got a video coming up on that, so watch out for that one as well. And interfacing becomes your friend. As I said, if you need to know how to apply it, I've got a video coming up very shortly on how to apply it, but I hope that has helped you understand fusible interfacing. Iron-on interfacing is the same thing. You'll also see it referred to as woven fusible or woven iron-on interfacing. All these are exactly the same thing. So I really hope that has helped. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell if this has been useful to you, and do share with your quilting friends. And I will love you and leave you for now, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.